Hello. What was it we were saying earlier? When I grow up,
I want to be an Easter egg.
I want to be an Easter egg. Don't ask.
Do you remember Did you get that thing I sent you? Because I found the poem you wrote me about the fish.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was such a shit poem.
It was very funny.
It was so bad. It was about a fish and like an old fish and then two fish that started being boyfriend and girlfriend and the other fish got angry and it was rubbish.
It was
Worst
very
poem
funny.
ever written.
It was very funny.
How old would I have been when I wrote that?
I don't know.
It was so shit. I wonder if I've got it. Did you WhatsApp it me?
Yeah, I think so.
Mum.
Did you WhatsApp it me?
Did you WhatsApp it me? Oh, here it
I
is.
wish there was Guinness in this.
Yeah,
for real.
listen to it.
It's so bad. It is like, I'm so... Right. So I was a kid when I wrote this. I read a poem in the last podcast with Cardi, yeah. I had a fish called Phil. He had a peculiar gill. His best friend is Maud, and she's always bored. Poor Maud. Phil has no talent, soon became apparent. He's transparent. I locked them in the tank with Grandad Frank, the stupid plank. They live in harmony, just them three, good company. When I cleaned the tank, who moaned? Grandad Frank. Maud fancied him. She's a bit dim. Phil doesn't like this. He's an angry... It's honestly the worst poem ever written in the entire world.
And it's long.
And it just goes on and on and on. And then at the bottom it just says, can't remember the rest. That took me ages. That's where it all started. Copywriting genius.
And here we are.
And here we are. Hello, Mum.
Hello, darling.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Welcome
I don't
to...
know why I went like that. I felt like a tortoise.
Welcome to Creative Juices.
Ooh.
Ready to get juicy? I mean, don't answer that question, Paul.
Yeah, please don't.
A thorn between two roses you are today? Or are you a rose between two thorns?
Either way, someone's a prick.
Sure.
Starts with me to go on.
So obviously we're going to talk about all things creativity and see where it takes us.
Okay.
Mum, what's your first memory of being creative? Because you're one of those people, obviously I've grown up with you. I would say you're like everything you do is creative, but what was your first memory of either you thinking, oh, I like doing things that are creative, or someone saying to you, oh, Helen's creative? Or
I don't think it was anybody said anything particularly. I just scribbled and, drew and made things. And if I'd got scraps of material, I'd make things from my toys. Or, I can remember making a mushroom out of a great aunt's beautiful lemon silk trousers. I mean, why would you cut up beautiful silk trousers? Would I do it today? No. So, yeah, and I always was making things and to a point where at Easter time, I mean, we've mentioned Easter, I wouldn't be bought chocolate eggs because I'm not very keen on chocolate. So they would buy me papers and pencils and paints because that's what I love doing. So that's my memory, really. And I never had anybody go, oh, she's good at this. The challenge was when I got to sort of, 5th and 6th year. Don't ask me what that equates to in modern years at school. But, when you'd done your GCSEs and what are you going to do after that? And I'd obviously done art and I was going on to do A-levels. And my art teacher told my dad, oh, Helen needs to go into commercial art. I didn't even know what that meant. And Grandad certainly didn't, So we went and found out and, that's where my career path. And the first time I thought, well, actually, I can make a living out of this. And also that Grandad thought I could make a living out of it. Because at that point, he had no idea what I was going to do. And I was allowed to go and do A-level art and anything else as long as I did RSA1 typing, because if I failed, I could go in a typing pool. Thanks for the ambition.
that's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. But actually, although his meaning for doing that was well-intentioned, it's proved me well all my life because I can touch type. And what's the tool we use every day to create things is a computer and a keyboard.
What about you, Paul? Like, do you have a early memory of thinking,
Do you know what? So, I think mine all stemmed from watching cartoons, probably. So if you, like, I'm going to say I was a golden era of cartoons, because I was like Turtles, Thundercats, He-Man, all that sort of stuff. I just remember playing with loads of toys and then practicing drawing them. And then it sort of expanded into comics. And Harry's the same, my son. So, like, I used to get comics, and I remember my auntie lives in the Lake District, and my uncle's an architect. So we always had, like, a massive drawing board. So I'd go up there, I'd take loads of comics, or I'd go to the library. Do people even go libraries anymore? And I'd get, like, they were called graphic novels, but they were just comics. And I would, like, redraw them. And that's what I always remember, just practicing drawing more than anything. And my dad can draw, actually. He's a chef, so he's creative with food, but he can draw. And I remember I used to make loads of stuff for my granddad. They had, like, a shed. Like, I'd say a shed, but it was massive. It was like
a workshop.
Yeah, and she used to go and, like, make lorries and woodwork and paint them and all sorts of stuff. So it probably started from just drawing comics more than anything. And then as I got older, it was just, like, looking what's around you, like, more design driven. But I used to, and this is dying, it's died. This what I'm going to talk about was pretty much gone. But I used to get, like, whether it's a CD, well, it would have been CDs by then. And I used to love going through the artwork of a CD. You know, they fold out and they'd fold out, and you'd be able to, like, read, like, who was on it, who'd produced it. But the artwork was always, like, mad. So, like, Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style, that was all illustration. So I loved that. And then as it, like, progressed, the styles of different rappers and etc. had different covers. So, like, that's what really started getting me into design. It was like, so
it's album covers, you know, and they've come back, actually. The album's a big thing again now, you know, a younger generation.
I was lucky enough to have that, because my mum and dad had like massive vinyl collection. It was mixed. My dad loved reggae, loved soul. My mum liked Bowie and things like that. So, like, I always remember having the Michael Jackson Bad album, being a little kid. So what was that, late 80s?
Yeah.
So I'd have been quite young. Opening up and he's doing, like, these dance moves. So there's me, like an idiot, trying to, like, practice all these dance moves from what's on the cover. But you just don't get it, do you?
both of you actually over the years, if you think about, we've just talked about sort of where things started, but you've both had very varied careers. So whilst you are designers as professionals, that would be what, if someone said, what's your trade? You would both say, I'm a designer. Graphic designer in particular. But Mum, just starting with you, like, very quick whistle stop tour. Obviously, before we started the agency, you worked for a big international company, had a very big role heading up the creative services for Europe, the Middle East and Africa. Yeah. Got that right.
Wrong way
but
around.
Africa, Europe and the Middle East, I don't know.
That's how they
those
tend
three
to say
in some sort of order. But prior to that, you worked in another agency. You've also done lecturing. You worked in a print environment. Like, just give us a bit of a whistle stop of some of the jobs you've had over the years.
Very quickly. So I've been a barmaid. Loved being a barmaid when I was
Did you wear those
younger.
boots?
Stop it. Been a barmaid. I've worked in a butcher's, which I hated. I hated working in a butcher's because I left home at 18. So, you know, and in the 80s there were recessions. So I had to do other jobs. I had to earn a living. So I've done all sorts of things, really. But I left home to work in a technical illustration company. They went bang in the 80s, so I had to look for another job. And I did selling for a year for a company called AA Admil, who were an American-run company who sold illustrator film and illustrator pens. And because I could use them, I could demo them beautifully. So there was only 2 women in the whole of the business across the country. I was one of them. And I did very well, but I hated it. But it was really good for me, because in a creative role, and we'll all know this from our different elements, where you have to sell your ideas. You have to be a salesman. You have to be able to get across what is happening on that page, whether it be written or creative or AV, like we're doing today. So that held me in really good stead. And then from there, I worked in another illustrative company who were predominantly automotive. And then I've done all sorts, really. I worked in education, which was when I did some teacher training. And then from there, I worked at a magazine and that was awful. I wasn't there very long. I was only there 3 months. But it was awful. It was like a plumbing magazine. And I was the photo editor and creator. And oh my goodness. Anyway, that was awful. And you were quite young. And then from there, I went to work for City Graphics for the council, which I was there for quite a long time. But I was part-time when you kids were younger. And then from there, I went to Warwick Uni and I went for a job as a graphic designer. And partway through the interview, they went, can we stop you? We've got another job we think you'll be good for. If we give you the job description, will you go and read it and come back in half an hour and interview for this job? And I went, what is it? And he said, it's our business development manager for our design and print. And I went, really? And she went, oh, yes. So off I went, read this job description, came back, interviewed, got the job.
Oh, there you go.
And from there, I wasn't really happy at Warwick Uni. There was a lot of politics going on there that wasn't very pleasant. And it's quite toxic. So I got headhunted by a couple of guys who wanted to sort of start an advertising agency. And I went to talk to them. And I went for it, really. And I was there for 3 or 4 years. Helped build the business. But I wasn't seeing you kids. And I could see that I was never going to be really integrated into the benefit of all that hard work. So I just thought I need to move on. And that's when I went to work for Massey Ferguson as a graphic designer. And, I was there for a long time. And I didn't think I would be there for a long time.
Nearly 20 years, weren't you?
Well, about 17 years. And it was just brilliant. I loved it. My role changed frequently. I went from being a graphic designer and in the end I ran the whole of the creative services. That's audiovisual, digital, the literature and the core creative. And we were the owners of the brand globally, so it was a big role, but I loved it. And, you were a bit older and I travelled a lot. I mean, I was very fortunate. I saw the world really.
You were always on. I remember all my friends being like, where's your mum this week? Where's she off to this week? Like, and it sounded really glamorous, but I would see mum like, and even to me, it was a little bit glamorous because I was like, oh, she's off to France, she's off to Africa. Like, I'd say to my friends, oh, she's in Zambia. They'd be like, is that in Africa? I'd be like, yeah. Your mum's in Africa? For how long? I'd be like, 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, because that was always a longer trip, wasn't it? But, and it did seem glamorous, but I would also see you coming home looking absolutely knackered. Like, because you were always on shoots or running in a big event, or so it wasn't. And as I got older and went into my career, I did a bit of travel with some of my jobs, and I did some of the things you did. Like, I was running events, I was running photo shoots, and it's exhausting. Great experience though, because you do get to see, like you say, you do get to see the world. And what you guys did with Massey Ferguson, just from an outside perspective, like, you took that brand from being very much a heritage brand, seen as like old and quality, but old, and it's what the older farmers would use, and you very much made it like a modern brand that appealed to younger farmers. You made it sexy. You had the whole superior DNA campaign, and you went to Antarctica, which was just, I remember mum did you can explain it briefly, mum, in a second, but mum organised and ran. You explain it actually, because you'll explain it better than me, what you guys did with the tractors in Antarctica. Okay,
we reenacted Sir Edmund Hillary's expedition to the South Pole in a tractor. And he took 3 tractors to the South Pole. What people don't know is he only took them there. He didn't bring them back. There's only one in Antarctica now. One's in New Zealand and the other one's in Beauvais in the Massey Ferguson factory. So we reenacted it with a modern tractor straight off the track, minor amendments to the glass because obviously of the temperatures in the South Pole and a bit of heating, but that was it. And we used Trelleborg tractors, again, standard tractors, technology. So tractors that farmers would use anywhere in the world. And what we were proving is that, if a tractor could go and do that, it could do anything. So, and we ran the core communications team. So I ran the morning call, and it was at 9:00 every morning, wherever we were. That's Saturday and Sunday and everything. So we'd have the call, everybody would be on the call, we'd look at what the downloads were from Antarctica. We'd listen to Matty McNair's voice note, which became the voice of the whole thing for us, away from the actual expedition, make sure where they were and they were safe and everything. And I used to run the morning call, sometimes from bed.
Yeah, we all used to get in at the weekends. Me and Sam would like jump into bed with mum and dad, and we'd like listen to the call because it was like, they're in Antarctica. Like, and as kids, I mean, I don't know how old I was, but Sam would have been maybe like 10, 11, I don't know, maybe
So
a
you'd
bit
be about
older.
13, 14.
But I remember it being like so cool. I was like, Mum, I'd go into school and I'd be like, my mum's running an expedition to Antarctica. Like I probably massively inflated it. But it was so cool because she'd got like Simon, who we're going to have on the podcast at some point, Foster.
Simon was never on the call, but we'll perhaps see Simon. Sorry, Hannah. We'll perhaps see Simon on one of the podcasts, and he can talk about it. But it was a brilliant thing. But we'd get all the calls, we'd get all the assets come in, but we'd have to decide what was going to the digital team, what the creative team were going to use, what was going to go to the press and Reuters. With the amount of press we got globally was massive.
Yeah, the coverage for the brand internationally because of that expedition was... So to anyone listening, you might be thinking, why the hell has a trip to Antarctica and an expedition got anything to do with, creativity? But actually, the whole concept of that expedition was just absolutely brilliant, and how the footage was used. Yeah, there was a photographer out there. There was,
merchandise.
It was, everything about it was a PR. It was a branding exercise.
It created millions of pounds of global coverage. We got 10 minutes on the BBC, news. 10 minutes. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
When they were live from the South Pole.
Yeah.
So we did really, really well.
Yeah. It's a really cool story. Yeah. And there's a really nice book out the back of it, isn't there, with all the photography and stuff. It's really nice. So we'll talk to Simon about that because he was the photographer when he comes on. But right, segue to you, Paul, from Antarctica to Northampton.
How'd you follow that?
Sorry, PG.
I've basically just blagged the living. The end of the podcast.
No, but similar to Mum, you went and did graphic design at uni in the end, didn't you? And then you have had a mixed career of selling and being creative, and then you've sort of like moved into marketing, haven't you? So you sold like cars, didn't you? And then...
Yeah. Do you know what? I did all right at that.
I can imagine. Gift of the gab.
Did all right at that. So what did I... Well, so I finished uni, would have been 2005, maybe. Something like that. And I couldn't get a job. So, like, I don't know about you, but when I was at uni, they make everything seem like it's an advertising agency and it's wicked and it's this and it's that.
I basically thought I was going to be in what is now Mad Men.
Yeah, same.
I thought that was going to be my life.
So you're working on all these campaigns and like you've got free reign, and when you get into the real world, it's like completely different. It's like getting
plumbing magazines.
Yeah, plumbing magazines. And I went for interviews, and I know students get this now. It's, you haven't got any experience, go away and do some more like logo design, and I just couldn't get a job. So I ended, it was probably the first. So obviously everyone has like uni jobs. I've worked in Burger King, Pizza Hut, bar. I ended up working at Barclaycard on a temporary contract while I was trying to find a job. Worst job of my life. Swear down, yeah. I had the seat next to the window, and it was in financial exceptions. So basically, there's just a team of people that look at receipts to see if cash machines haven't given money out and stuff like that. And it's all like number driven.
Riveting.
And anyone that knows me knows I hate
Receipts.
Numbers.
Awful. So I used to be near the window, And every now and then, like, I'd have a little nap. I'd like put my hand on my face like that. Have a little nap because no one could see me. And then if anyone came, because I'm a light sleeper.
There's a history of you doing that in your career.
So,
Little afternoon nap. I'll tell a little story now because I used to work, because it's just perfect timing. So me and Paul obviously used to work together at ACS, and Paul, you still like it now, but you're actually not as bad, I would say, in the last couple of years. Paul used to hit like 3 o'clock, and he'd be like,
working
right.
with you.
Yeah, probably. I'm so boring. And at ACS, we used to work in a little glass bowl office, and there was Paul was on one side, I was on the other, but I had my back to the door, and there was like a, what are they called? Like
manifestation.
in between us, so that you couldn't actually see Paul until he walked in. And I could tell, because Paul would either have like not spoken, not said a swear word, not grumbled at what was on his screen for like 5 minutes. So I'd be like, oh yeah, he's having a little nap. And then if anyone important walked past, like John Thorpe or John Harley or Gordon or someone, one of the directors, I'd be like, Harley. And he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'd be like, Thorpe. And he'd like come out of it. But yeah, so there's a little pattern.
I can't
emerging
confirm
there.
or deny that story.
I would like to plead my Fourth Amendment right.
Yeah, so I can get a job. So I started there, but it was awful. Then I was expecting a baby, and I was like, this job doesn't pay enough. So I started selling cars. I used to sell like 30 odd cars a month, but
Is that good?
well, it's pretty good. It's
Not
a car a
bad.
day, isn't it?
That's pretty good when you put it like that. Car a day keeps
But
the doctor away.
The problem was, like, you had like shifts and your days were split, so I wouldn't see anyone. And then obviously a baby was on the way, and then when I was like, oh, I've got to find something different. And then from there, so Michael Harley, give Michael a little shout out, Michael, wouldn't help me get a job at ACS. I was like, oh mate, try and get me a job. He's like, no. So I rang up. At the time at ACS, we had a receptionist called Kate, bless her, and she was like the gatekeeper. No one could get past Kate. She was an absolute rottweiler. Well, anyway, I did. I just lied.
You did.
Blagged my way through to get...
Flirted your way through.
I don't know. No, Kate wouldn't have put up with that shit. She was too long in the tooth for that. So
nice try,
I
Gordon.
got put through to Dan Harding. And Dan Harding gave me like my first like proper job. But it was in IT sales. Again, terrible.
You got to be a certain kind of person.
You got to be
sell
proper
IT.
thick-skinned because you're just calling, and
Getting told to fuck off all the time.
pretty much. So it was a tough gig. And shout out to all the IT salespeople I know, because it's hard work.
You're better people than we are.
Or you're mad.
Yeah.
And I'll speed it up because it's bloody boring, isn't it?
Little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, I ended up doing like the office furniture design. And then sales and the design. And in the end, I couldn't be bothered. I think I nearly died going to Milton Keynes because Chloe was so young, she weren't sleeping. I was nodding at the wheel, and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And then I worked in the design and marketing department with Chris Burton. Big shout out to Chris, who taught me how to code and things like that. Not that I use it anymore. So I worked closely with Chris, and he buggered off did signing up with Dan.
Done very well. Well done,
Yeah,
guys.
done very well. And then I ran the marketing department. I was there for 11 years. Hired you. Saved you from getting sacked.
I was also selling IT, and I was shit. I was so bad. And at the time, I don't think I realised how bad I was. But I also didn't realise that I was quite close to getting fired because I was so bad. I now know this.
Little coffee in the kitchen, catch up. Found out she had a marketing degree, and
that I was miserable.
Yeah. And I was just like, do you know what?
Hi, who'd you buy your IT from? Fuck off. Okay, bye. Hi, who'd you buy your IT? Fuck off. Okay, bye. It was horrendous. Yeah. I even had one guy, I don't think it was at ACS, at Misco, tell me to fuck off and go and get a proper job. And I rang him back. I rang him back.
I've got a proper job.
I was like, I'll have you know, this is, like, Karen came out. She was in me then as well. I was like, I'll have you know, this is a proper job. And I'm just trying my best. I have to make 100 of these phone calls a day. You little fucker. He ended up being one of my best customers.
Yeah, because they appreciate that.
Yeah. I was like, I will not fuck off and get a proper job.
Stick it to the man.
I'm going to ring you back. But yeah, and then we had we were there 4.5 years together, and
Yeah.
then I left,
Left the
you
same
left.
year.
There was a mass exodus of the marketing team. Sorry, ACS.
So I
Love
went
you,
to
really.
work with Claremont.
Back in sales, really.
Yeah, sort of sold
Ma-
market sales and marketing, but basically I did marketing and the sales. So I had to do. First year was like I had to do 2 million sales in the north. So I was traveling all over the country and doing creating my own marketing materials. I actually loved. At points that job was crazy, and I loved it.
A lot of freedom at Claremont, isn't there? Though, like if you're like shout out to Claire Brook, but like it's one of those companies that if you're good at what you do and you're one of the team, like they will just let you crack on and do your job. Like it's a great environment.
John just harnesses that.
Some of the shit I used to do, and he was just like, "Go on then."
As long as it sells something, Paul, do it.
Yeah. Just like pimp me out to the highest bidder he would.
No wonder you loved it.
I was so boozy though. And it was one of them where you're like, I can't do this for much longer because I'll either be dead.
Or an alcoholic.
Yeah. But the recession happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
Changed.
worked for a marketing agency for a year. And then said to you that I'm going to leave. And you were like, I said, so if you're thinking about hiring me, have a word with your mum.
And ta-da, here we are.
And here we are.
Here we are.
2 years later.
3
Never happier.
Musketeers.
Still selling, by the way.
Yeah, still selling.
Someone has to.
You can't help it. Well, thank you for your... this
By the
is
way,
your
that
lives.
was so boring, wasn't it?
This is, may not use all
Antarctica
that.
to IT.
Oh, I didn't go to Antarctica. You know.
Yeah,
I'd love to have
Antarctica
gone,
too, selling cars in Northampton. Go. But like on a serious note, they are two careers that are very varied. You've built up a set of really like valuable skills as people. You can both sell, you can both type, you can both design still.
I can't type. I use the girls to do my copy.
No, but you know what I mean. It was a joke anyway. Never mind. Bad audience. But how would you say for people who are starting their career in like a creative field, whether it's design, obviously you guys are both designers, but design, copy, music, audio, visual, like how have you guys like honed your skills over the years? Are there things you've proactively done to keep your eye in?
Yeah, I think you have to be. Every day's a school day. You've got to keep learning, and things change rapidly. So if you think when I first worked in commercial art, sending something to print involved sending your photographs off to be put into plates and separated. You know,
What you did is you got a pigeon
all
and you
the
tied your photos to the
and you
pigeon.
tied it to, and then you'd get your copy delivered on like rolls of paper, and you used to have to cut it up and paste it down on
Oh
a
my
board.
God, what a faff.
If you didn't get your leading and kerning right in your calculations, you would sit and cut slithers out between letters, between lines. It was laborious. When I was hungry for the computers when they came on board, and I left a drawing office company because they wouldn't invest in computers.
That's mad, isn't it? When you look back now.
And that's when I went to
They're going to steal our jobs.
Yeah, and that's when I went to work in education, and you reference printing. And I approached the college where I'd done my City Guilds, and I said, look, I'm looking for a job in design because I want to get on the computers. And the lady in there was fantastic, and she ran the design studio and the print because in the college they had the photocopy printing, but they had commercial litho printing and darkroom and plate making.
I love doing that.
So she said, I've got a space in print if you want to just go in there for 3 months because I've just got to get this job through. And I went, absolutely, took a punt at it. I wasn't pregnant then, I just got married. And I went and did it, and I worked in print, so I learned to print, work in the darkroom, make plates. I could strip a printer down and clean it. You know, I loved it. And what it did, it teaches you the other side of things. So when you're designing, you know what you're going to be producing it on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you just got to, from that point, being willing to learn, keeping up with software, look at the latest trends. Now it's all Instagram. We follow illustrators and designers on Instagram and we watch what they do and you learn,
You haven't got TikTok, have you, Mum? I don't think you should get TikTok. I think we would lose you to TikTok.
I don't think you would. I don't think.
I think we would.
Okay.
Really? I think
Yeah.
Instagram Reels is bad enough.
I shouldn't say this, but it's not for me, TikTok.
Don't get TikTok, mum.
I remember starting, when I started college, Photoshop 2 had just come out.
Oh, you guys, you're so
Photoshop 2.
old.
Zip discs?
Zip disc.
Well, I used to work with Ventura. That was before
Don't
that.
even know what that
that
is.
was a publishing software.
Was that like
and
Quark
some of
Express sort of thing?
it was before Quark. Before. So and
know
you'd
what
even
Quark
have
is.
to you'd have to
It
code.
was a nightmare.
You'd have to code part of it. You know, if you were doing job page numbers, you'd have to code it. So, you know, I started on the first little Mac, the
Yeah.
screen that big.
I remember when you.
Yeah.
I remember you had like one of the big transparent Mac. It was like the big Mac with you could see all the insides.
I had
and
two
was
of
like,
them.
It's so cool.
I used
And
to
then
do
you got
music
the Mac.
production on them.
Mac Mini.
Then you got the Mac Mini, and I remember being like, "How is that a computer?" It was just like a box of chocolates. It was mad. But yeah, how about you, Paul? Like, how have you honed your craft? Would you say? Are there things that you do now still to like keep your eye in?
Yeah.
What I do to hone my craft? Do you know what? Mine's probably Instagram.
Yeah, me too.
My
I just sit and watch Instagram.
No, but I don't get loads of time on it because like outside of work, it's like just normal life. I don't even sit down till about 9 o'clock. But I follow like designers, like you, designers, illustrators on Instagram. I've got friends who work in design agencies. I like to look at stuff they do. Sometimes I'll have a look at books. And really, because I'm in it all the time, I'm constantly referencing and looking and but then just day to day things could be like you could be watching a film and see something that's cool and like I don't really do. I wish I drew more. I used to be really good at drawing, rubbish at it now because I could draw like near and like pretty much lifelike, but now I don't because I don't do it.
Yeah, it's like anything, isn't it? Any creative skill, the more you do it, generally the better you get. There probably are some people out there that are just not destined to be artists, like, you know.
It depends.
But it's like the
expressive.
10,000 hours thing, isn't it? The more hours you put into something, the better you will get at it. It's
Also videographers. Sorry, Hannah. Videographers and photographers. I like that creativity. It's always been key in all of my work, really, the audiovisual side. So for me, looking at like movie, you know, some films, you know, I love the Coen brothers, the way they film, you know, the way they use music, the humour, but then following young photographers. So I love a guy called Pete McKinnon, a Canadian guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
Who's really cool. And he's brilliant. And I'm not his target audience, you know, probably my age demographic.
hey, you don't know.
But actually, he's superb. And my advice to youngsters would be think of every day as a school day. Absorb, and don't give up. And we've all found our routes into our perfect jobs via other routes. Well, or, you know.
As close to perfect as it gets, let's say.
You know, via other routes. So, you know, the path's not like that.
No.
It's like that.
I think as well.
And
like,
you learn more.
Yeah, consuming what you enjoy is vital. So, you know, if you're into videography or you're into copywriting or you're into, like, for me, I've recently really got back into reading, but reading like fiction, not just, I'm a bit of a self-help geek and like personal development geek, but just reading fiction over the last few months, I can see it's helping my writing because I'm absorbing more words, I'm absorbing a wider vocabulary.
And imagination.
Yeah, just you know, storytelling, which is essential for what we do in marketing and in brand. But I do think like consuming as much as you can of the quality people in your field is really worth doing. And there's no excuse for not doing that nowadays.
Yeah, it's everywhere. isn't it?
Absolutely no
not.
excuse. So if you're not like super into it, my attitude is chances are you're probably not going to get very good at it. You've got to be into it. You've got to really want to like get stuck in. What would you say now is your favourite creative outlet now? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something work related. But what do you turn to creatively to like relax now or unwind? What's your favourite thing to do?
Oh, am I going first? Do you know what? Mine's probably music. I love discovering new music. Like, and like I say, I am actually really eclectic. People probably wouldn't realise how
you are.
eclectic my taste is.
You are.
Like when I follow people on Instagram that will just share new music, and so I'll go in like deep dive, find myself in a hole of like listening to different music, and that could be anything from. I love instrumentals, like obviously someone that's got a great voice and all that, but I love the way like they're put together. Like I'll get lost in like just watching how people sample things.
Yeah.
I think I sent you something the other day. That thing I sent you yesterday, the girl. Did you watch it?
No, not yet.
Mental. She's amazing. Just
I
the
will
way
watch
like they piece everything together. So I like that because like it can reflect your mood. It can help your mood. It can. I don't know. And outside of that, it would just be with like Harry. If he's drawing, I'll help him like express his creativity. And
He's really good, isn't he?
he's all right.
He's good. He's definitely
He does enjoy it.
got the creative gene, definitely.
We go to the comic shop every now and then, have a look. But yeah, it's probably music's my main thing.
Yeah.
But I do love like the little tips and tricks on like the softwares, and I think, oh shit, how have I not known that? I've used this software for so many years, and it's that easy to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I'll share it all with everyone. So yeah, probably that. Time's the biggest thing.
Not having enough of it. What about you, Mum?
I love the garden. This time of year, going in the garden. I've created a garden because there was nothing when we moved in there. So the garden's quite important to me. Always has been, actually. It's been like my detox.
Yeah.
Even though it's quite hard work, creating a garden has been fantastic. But like you say, everything I do, I love to cook. I like to experiment when I'm cooking.
She's in there with goggles and a coat. And...
People who know me now know I knit. And that's a creative outlet as well, but it's also a mindful practice. I think in everything you do, if you've got a busy, stressful job, having something that is creative but mindful is actually quite good for you. And I find that's very good for me. And like Paul said, he'd like to draw and paint more. I'm looking into doing that a bit more. Domestica's a great
that's good.
access to courses if you want to get back in and just do something and practice. They don't cost a lot. You follow a process and they're great. So I've done a couple just to get my hand and my eye in again. And BBC4
the Maestro courses.
Yeah, I've bought a couple of those, but BBC4 every now and again do live drawing that you can participate on. Oh, cool. And I've done that a couple of times. It's hard, and I used to love live drawing, like Paul. I loved it, and I did it, and it was hard, and it was challenging me, not only my skill set again, but my thought process and getting your eye in and looking, and so yeah, like you, I do lots of things. I
don't know about you, but like I find it's quite easy to feel out of touch.
Yes.
Yeah, things move so quickly, don't they?
Like when I was in Claremont and doing the stuff there, even though I was doing design work, when I come out of it, I felt out
jaded.
Yeah.
Like you feel a bit behind.
Yeah. You know when I left the agency and went into Massey Ferguson, I felt like I was done. I was quite exhausted from that, and I found that I could reboot when I got to Massey Ferguson, and it was actually one of the more creative places I'd ever been. And you wouldn't think that in a corporate, but we were a bit like square pegs in round holes as a team. We weren't the corporate norm, and I just loved it there.
I was going to ask you what inspires you both. Keep it clean.
I do.
Keep it clean.
I do, yeah.
Let me think.
I get inspiration from the young ones. You know, like
Not
Georgia
the TV
coming
programme.
in, George coming in, you know, following younger people and what they're doing and the way they look at the world. Alex Stead is another photographer that I follow, who's a travel photographer, global photographer. I love what they do and the way they look at the world, and you know, I love that, and young energy. You know, those young creatives coming in and bouncing off them, and you know, we've all just worked on a project for one of our clients, and Paul and Georgia have done it, and I've just been there, like moving the rudder a little bit, and going, well, why don't you do that and move that, and that's a lovely thing for me. I love that.
Aye, Captain.
Steering that ship.
I don't know. Just everything around me, I think. Like, it depends what I'm doing. If I've got a certain... I love researching into things and getting inspiration from stuff. Like, I did a branding project where I got inspiration from, like, the area where the people were from. Mm-hmm. So it's just... whatever, like, my thought process goes down, that whatever road... Because you always naturally go one way or another. Yeah. My thing is... The thing I need the most is that we touched on it earlier, when you get the creative block, because I'm an absolute asshole for that. Once I get that, it pisses me off.
What do you do to get out of it typically?
So probably a couple of things. I'll either stop, go for a walk, just get some fresh air. Sometimes I'll battle through it.
That's dangerous territory,
but
isn't it? I find
sometimes you need that to realise something's not right and to take a different direction. So it just depends. If I'm really battling through something and it's not happening, I'll go for a walk, come back, battle through it a bit more. I have had times where I've done that and I've been happy with the outcome. But as creatives, we're never happy, are we? Never satisfied.
No,
we could do something that we think's wicked one day, look at it about a month later and think, that's shit.
Well,
your classic is, oh, it's not that good, but, and then we all look at it and go, it's really fucking good. Like, you don't, like, and I think this is the case for a lot of designers or, like you say, creatives. Like, we don't see, we'll pick like the tiniest little things that, like, I could scrutinize a piece of copy endlessly. If I wrote something, I could read it every day and make a change. Yeah. Probably infinitely. Because every day your brain sees something different, or you're in a different mindset, or another word comes to mind, or you put it in AI and AI goes, well, why don't you do this? And you go, oh yeah, that's better. Or not. So like, it's one of those things where, for me, if I'm writing something and I get the dreaded writer's block, I often find once I start writing, it doesn't happen. For me, it always happens at the beginning. So like when I've not got any words on the page, which is, for me, genuinely, I used to just do what you do, like go for a walk or stop that, do something menial, like do something a bit mindless for 15 minutes, just sit and have a cup of tea, whatever. But now I'll do that if it's really bad. Now I'll use AI to get me going. So I'll give AI the brief I've been given and AI will go, what about this? And I'll never use what it spits out, but it gets my brain going. It like triggers me to start. And
sometimes you need a different viewpoint. Sometimes I go, Helen, come and have a look at this. Or Georgia, come and have a look at this. And then just...
It's a shame because no one ever wants to read the copy when I go, can someone read this?
No,
no fuck off, Anne. Okay. I'll just read it out loud.
Good luck with that one, yeah. That's what dictionaries
just in the lonely copywriter's corner.
No, yeah, but talking about it, talking through a process, or sometimes people see things from a different viewpoint and you think, actually, yeah, I haven't thought about that at all, and it works. But touching on the AI, there's only one thing I like that's AI, and it's you know, when you've got an image.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you've just not got enough space around something, like it's framed
not
poorly.
Enough geography, I call it.
Yeah. And it's just framed poorly, or you're like, that could be amazing, but just the fact that you can expand something out now and just extend the picture a bit. I mean, sometimes you get some absolute dog shit stuff, but you can say, like, it can actually make or break something because you can just quickly do it.
I find it with AI, it just I equate it to where we were when we moved from that sort of cut and paste images off to, be separated, that time to computers. AI for me is like that time.
Yeah.
So it has just speeded up what I do. So if an image needs there's a few problems with it, it needs retouching, there's something sticking out of a shoulder that I need to get rid of, or, somebody's just not been aware of the geography around the hero. I find it helps me with that, and you're right, it will throw up, or I'll get a goldfish in a bowl or something, that comes up, but it just speeds up my process, and that's it. It isn't finessed.
No.
Not yet.
You always have to do something, but then if you think where designing for production and print went once we had computers, AI will do the same. Use the tool. It's another pencil in your box.
It just speeds everything up. The youngsters today will never understand how painstaking it is to hand cut something out on Photoshop.
I had once
My belly,
when I worked for Massey Ferguson. There was an agency they were using when I first worked for them, and they designed the literature covers. And they designed them where it was cut out corn, cut out grass, cut out barley. And
Someone had to do that by hand?
Yeah. You used to have to go in and mask.
No.
Yeah,
and you'd have to go down. And you could do most of it on a 2-3 pixel pen. Sometimes you'd have to go down to 1 pixel. Whoever came up with that idea, I hate you, and I hope fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits. It was awful. It was absolutely...
This has taken a turn.
Awful.
She's actually a lovely person.
The camel lady.
So do you know what I mean? It was
She's not bitter.
Yeah.
She's not twisted.
I lost my
It's all a touch of a button now, and then a little bit of tweaking.
The thing is, there will have been people, like you say, like back in the day when the computers and the internet started to take over, that would have been like, this interweb stuff and these computers, they're going to take our jobs. And don't get me wrong, there are now jobs that don't exist because of computers and because of the internet, but there's new ones. And also with AI, yes, there will be jobs that are obsolete long term because of what AI can do, but it's about how we adapt. And if you're the kind of person who isn't willing to adapt your skills and develop and move with the times, then yes, you may become obsolete. If you're willing to develop, hone your skills, use AI as a tool, not competition, then you'll move with the times and you'll be fine. So it's a really, it's an interesting one. When you compare it to like computers and stuff, like when you're saying cutting things by hand, then hallelujah for computers.
Do you know what? It's actually like, although it is immense, when you compare it to that, it's nothing. The actual gulf between letter setting and screen printing and all this stuff to having a computer that does stuff for you was massive.
Yeah.
I had some
far steeper.
I had somebody say to me once, because I could illustrate with my, I could illustrate by hand. Somebody said to me once, the problem is the designers of the day, the only tool they have is their computer and their software. You will always have more tools in your kit box because you can do things by hand. And you can bring another element to doing that. And I'll sometimes, we still, the two of us still scamp. We will still rough out because...
Georgia does as well, actually, doesn't she?
Yeah. So that's how we were taught,
Mood board.
I mean, in Georgia's interview,
Scamped
this really
pictures
impressed us, didn't it? But in Georgia's interview, she turned up with a project that she'd done, but she showed us her original scamps. And like you were saying, like that's quite a brave thing to do because actually scamping is not, it's not refined. It's by no means the finished article. And very often it's quick and they don't look like the best things ever. They're just doodles, really. But yeah, it's nice to see the process behind things.
And Georgia can't turn it off.
No. I used to love scamping at uni. Reminds me of a project I did, an anti-fur project.
Anti what? Anti-fur?
Yeah. And I had like
as in no
only
animal
arseholes wear fur, and it's just,
Yeah, I can
and
imagine.
a wolf in Keith's clothing,
Yeah,
just
I
like a
used
wolf with like some man's skin on.
I used to do the visual art. So, you know, when you were working up a campaign, you'd have to do the visuals, and you'd have to do. I did quite a couple, you know, with the marker pens. I used to like them more because they smelt amazing.
They are good.
You're like
It's like
Cardi.
drugs in a pen.
Cardi was saying
double-sided
that.
ones,
Cardi was saying how her materials that she uses to draw, like she said, I could eat them. They're just delicious. Like that the visceral impact of the tools that you use. Like for me, it's the keyboard. And like me and George were talking about this. George likes gaming, and it's the keyboard is an essential tool.
PC
in
he's a proper
in your
gamer,
toolkit.
PC
Yeah,
gamer.
he's a proper gamer. Apparently, I know nothing about any of it.
I own your PS5.
And I will not claim to.
I have no idea what that was all about then.
Don't you worry. I just
But
hope you're having
Hannah
a lovely
typing
time.
is like a million mice running over bloody tin. Innit?
It sounds beautiful, actually. It does not sound like that.
Terrific.
It's old fashioned. It's like what I learned to type on.
It's just
isn't it?
touch typing, yeah.
I like the old softies that you can't.
Just touch
you
typing.
can't
And
hear.
if I'm typing a slightly angry email, it's just fatter mice.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go into the quick fire questions in a minute.
You go
but
first
before
and I'll go second.
before I do, I was going to
throw me
actually
under
just
the
say
bus.
that we ask Mum because you've answered them in Steve's podcast.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah.
So we'll probably just ask Mum because otherwise it's going to get a bit repetitive.
We'll cut that
for
bit out though.
Our
'cause
dear old listeners, all two of you. But before I do you think anyone can be creative?
Absolutely.
Paul?
Yeah.
Good chat.
No, they can, can't they? Because it just depends what you're doing. And you're creating something in whatever you do. My dad's a chef. He creates meals, masterpieces. Barmen create happy moments for people that like to get drunk.
Well, you've got like mixologists and people like that.
Yeah.
That's creative, isn't it? 'Cause you're mixing flavours
Like,
and
creativity is everywhere.
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't,
And it's the whole premise of this podcast stemmed from a moment of crisis that I had when we first started the business, when Mum basically created a really beautiful brand out of nowhere. And I was like, wow, that looks so good. And I was like, what did I do? Like, I just had a bit of a professional identity crisis and was like, I don't understand what role I played in that. And that's when you said to me that my words fueled your ideas for that. So then I realised, like, okay, my creativity is with words. And I just think that...
I'm going to disagree on that because Hannah, the listeners won't know, but Hannah can actually design as well.
Yes, you can.
She's come on leaps and bounds.
Well,
with that.
from the day that I probably first designed something when you would have been like,
I
what
would have been
the fuck is that? That
absolutely
is
the
shit.
pits.
But that's because I've been surrounded by you guys.
Yeah.
So like I've watched Mum doing things creatively and designing my whole life. And then I worked very closely with you. So that's just by osmosis. And there is a graphic designer like screaming inside to get out. It's just way cooler than copywriting, I've always thought.
See,
But
and I can't copyright. I
need
don't.
I
to.
can't spell.
that is very true.
I can't even string a sentence together
Mum does
properly.
not touch any of the copy that goes out of this business. But yeah, I agree. I do think anyone can be creative. And I think creativity comes in all different forms. You know, for me, our accountant is creative. The way she like talks about numbers, I'm like, what?
She needs to be more creative.
I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, everyone's got their own creativity. So,
Yeah.
Mum, quick fire.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Not really, but go.
Quick is the operative word. Yeah, quick fire.
She's
You
saying
ready?
that you're slow.
3, 2, 1, go. If you could, which creatives, dead, alive, past, present, would you invite to a dinner party?
Hockney.
Hockney, David Hockney.
David Hockney.
I was really praying I got his name right then. Yeah? Just David Hockney.
Absolutely.
Just you and David
or
Hockney.
Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell. Oh my goodness. Paul Simon. Throw in a bit of Sting. Sorry for those that don't.
Just
love
for
him.
eye candy.
Yeah. Well, no.
And
Because
he's
I
very
followed him
talented.
from the police and followed him all his career.
So you're a stalker.
I've got a real mix. You know, David Bailey. Right back to
Mm-hmm.
the 60s. You know.
The illustrators that you mentioned, maybe.
Audrey Beasley. Yeah.
Bloody hell, you need a banquet
Big table.
Yeah, I would. And yeah, there's lots of people.
And who's cooking?
I would. Oh no. Who's cooking?
Tommy Gordon.
Oh, it'll be chaos.
Now that's a hard one. Who's cooking? Because we used to do a game. What would your last meal be? and we used to negotiate whether it was a summer menu or a winter
God.
menu.
It's taken very
so
seriously.
I don't know. I've got lots of favourite chefs, really. I think for fun, but perhaps slightly annoying, would be Jamie Oliver. I think he'd be a bit
Yeah.
of fun in there.
But slightly annoying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
Jamie.
I love him. I think he's great.
He's brilliant.
He's
yeah.
great.
What he's done is brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that wasn't very quick, but we'll let you off. Question 2. If your work was edible, what would it taste like?
Lemon tart.
Lemon tart.
or lemon tart, something like that. Yeah.
Why?
Because I love citrus. I like citrus flavours. So like a good gin and
What?
tonic.
So when people look at your work, they go, "Oh,
No, or a good gin and tonic.
oh yeah, relaxing. That's nice. That's a good one."
Refreshing.
Refreshing and delicious.
And if you could choose, last question, if you could choose a theme song for your life so far, what would it be? Oh, yeah, difficult.
Oh, that's really hard.
With this, when I was talking to Cardi about this, we ended up talking about her funeral song instead. She was like, "Can I just tell you what my funeral song would be?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
I'd want something soul and funk and dancey, and there's lots of, you know, like something from Frankie Beverly Mays, you know, that time that was just real core funk and soul. That would be my sound. I just love it.
Funk and soul. Vibrant.
Yeah.
Very vibrant.
Fun.
Yeah.
Can't keep still, get up on your feet. And
Yeah.
God, I
Dance
don't
away.
even know what I said when I had to do that one.
I can't remember.
I think you need
90s hip hop?
I think you need to like switch up those questions, because what you'll find is everyone will listen and expect and preempt.
No, you
because I'm like Paul.
excuse
I
me,
like,
don't come in here. Like, this is what people do on podcasts sometimes.
my
They
bad.
have some set questions at the end. So
I was just saying.
you just back off over there.
But I, you
Mind
know,
your business.
I like modern trance and like the music sound like Saint
Trance.
Germain
Yeah,
and you know that sort of stuff. I love all.
It's
of
a very
that,
difficult
and
question. Anyway, thanks,
Yeah.
Mum. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You had a nice time.
I need a wee, if I'm honest.
Oh, right.
But it's
cool.
been great.
You go for your wee.
Hand up then.
Yeah.
Time for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks very much, guys.